this year, 150th anniversary of the end of the Civil War, also of President Lincoln's assassination. What are the things that modern leaders might look back at to sort of borrow from Lincoln?
Well, you know, I think when you think of the dysfunction of the Congress now and that neither side can even talk to one another, the reason the 13th Amendment was an important story to tell in the movie, as well as a shorter story in my book, was the fact that Lincoln was able to get people for a good cause by all sorts of means. I mean, nowadays they might be transparent. You know,
Right.
I'll give you this if you'll come with me on this.
Right.
I'll bargain this if you come with me. And he did it. He did all the things as a politician necessary through persuasion and through hard bargaining to get the right votes to pass that 13th Amendment.
Right,
So.
right. I want to transition just a little. I know you also know quite a bit about Lyndon Johnson. We're coming up on the 50th anniversary here of the riots in this city, which really did tear this city apart, and whose legacy is still a very big part of our modern lives in Detroit. Lyndon Johnson had to respond to that by sending the National Guard, but I also know that it happened at a time in his presidency when he was struggling with his own legacy in terms of civil rights and what effect that would have on his domestic programs and things like that. Talk to me about what he would have been feeling at the time those riots happened.
Well, I know because I started working for him as a White House fellow right after the riots took place in Washington a year later.
Uh-huh.
And what he was most proud of for his legacy forevermore would be civil rights. The Civil Rights Act of '64 that desegregated the South, the Voting Rights Act of '65, open housing. And so what happened when the riots took place in Detroit and earlier in Watts right after the Voting Rights Act and then later in Washington was it was so hard for him to understand because he thought we've made such progress.
Don't miss American Black Journal, Sundays at 12:30 p.m.